Hi there, my name is Jen, and thanks so much for stopping by today. Today we are going to the beach with Visible Image, so we are using some sprays and a new stamp set from Visible Image, and the stamp set is called At the Beach, and it's got some seashells and some a starfish. So it's perfect for a beach or a water or ocean card. And I'm also using this really cool die from Visible Image, and this is called a Torn Fishnet. And so I've already gone ahead and run the die through my die cutting machine, and I am using a piece of Bristol smooth cardstock for this. This card's changed so many times in the process of making it, so I started out spraying the fishnet portion and this background with some distress inks. And so the first one I grabbed was tea dye, and then I went ahead and grabbed the antique linen. And then I'm going to take my heat tool and dry that up a bit. And then I will also take a baby wipe and blot some of that up as well. Or a paper towel is good too, yep. And so I basically just wanted it to look like sand. And then I wanted the fishnet portion to be a little bit darker, so I took the ground Espresso Distress Spray and sprayed that. I don't know why I didn't take it out of that paper, but here I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that out. Just to make the fishnet look a little more like rope, but I don't end up using that in the end. And I'm just going to repeat adding the tea dye and antique linen once again on that panel. And then for the background panel, I am using a 6x6 piece of watercolor paper, and I'm going to go ahead and start creating kind of the ocean portion of the card. And what I started out doing was spraying lightly with just some water, and then I'm taking the Salvaged Patina and I'm going to spritz that just along the bottom portion, and then spray it with water again and move that color around a little bit. And then I'm going to take my heat tool, which will move the color around some more and give it a little bit of a different variation in pattern. And I kind of just went from the bottom to the top, basically layering the distress ink. I didn't want to spray the whole thing all at once because I wanted it to look more like waves in a way, and I felt that the best way to do that was to just spray a little bit at a time or spray it in strips. And so I'm just going to repeat that process all the way up to the top of that card panel. And I'm happy with the end result. I think when I look at it, at least I can see waves. Maybe that's just because that's what I want to see, but you have to let me know if that's what you see as well. So I went ahead and I set that panel aside, and I am going to grab the piece that I created at the beginning, except I ended up liking the backside of that piece, basically where the ink went underneath it on my work surface. And so I am going to use that piece, and then I'm going to layer it against this piece right here. So basically this is the negative die cut from that fishnet die, and I'm going to spray this with those same colors I used for the ocean background, with the Salvaged Patina and the prize ribbon. They're just really beautiful colors together. And then I'll spritz that with water to move that color around a little bit. And then I will again take my heat gun and dry that up. And then I'm just placing these against each other to figure out kind of how much I want of that blue background peeking through, so that it looks like coral. And then I'm taking my original background that I did, I'm going to add a little bit of prize ribbon to that as well. And so I just spritzed it in a few spots, and then I will take my water bottle, or my water bottle, and spritz those spots. And then I'm just going to take the paper and kind of move it around and let that ink kind of travel around on the paper. And then with a little bit of that leftover ink on my work surface, I'm going to do a little bit of ink smushing, and then taking a baby wipe and just blotting up some of those areas. And then I'm taking my last piece of paper, and this is where these stamps are going to go. And so the colors that I'm using for this background are the Kichj Flamingo and Scattered Straw. I think it gives a really pretty, almost coral color with the mixture of these two colors. So I'm going to spray both of the colors, and then I'm going to take my water bottle and spritz that and move that color around. And then again, I'm going to heat that with my heat gun, and then blot that with a wet baby or a slightly damp baby wipe to mop up all those colors. And then I'm going to place this in my MISTI, and I grabbed the stamps that I wanted to use from that stamp set. And I'm going to stamp these up in some Versafine Black ink, and then I will clear emboss these. So I'm going to stamp these up and then spread some clear embossing powder on top of them, and then heat that embossing powder onto that stamp. And then I do actually end up fussy cutting those out. So my top panel, which is basically I'm going to call it the sand panel, I added a little bit of foam to the back of that so it would be a little bit elevated from that blue background. And then I'm going to take the ocean background and add that entire piece on top. And then I'll start adding some of the starfish and the shells. And then I took another piece of that fishnet die and cut a few pieces and adhered those with some liquid adhesive around the edges of the card. And then for the sentiment for this card, I went ahead and I used the one that says beach. And so even though I'd already added foam to this, I did go ahead and place it in my MISTI and stamp that up. And I believe the color I used, I think I used the Distress Oxide in Antique Linen for that sentiment that says beach. And then to finish the card off, I added a little bit of twine to the left-hand side, and I just tied it in a knot. I wrapped it around the back and then tied that in a knot and adhered that to probably a 5 3/4 by 5 3/4 piece of cardstock, so it has a little bit of a white border. But that is it for my card today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did like this video or find it informative, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. All of the products will be linked below if you're interested. And as always, I thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend with me, and I hope to see you next time.